You're listening to Shoe In, covering the ins and outs of all things footwear, from sneakers to heels, loafers to slippers, and every type of shoe in between. Brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Shoe In Show. It is the season of pool shoes and beach sandals and extreme heat. And please remember to put on your suntan lotion. We don't need any burns. We don't want any burns.
This is a Polk survey announcement.
Fair warning for everybody. Just a reminder: if you step out for the first time and the sun hits you, and you haven't been tanning like our former president, you might just want to put on some suntan lotion. Just a friendly reminder. It is super exciting, Matt, to feel a little bit of the heat again. New season, kind of new. I feel a little bit more vibrant coming out of winter and spring, and excited to get into the discussion today.
Yeah, me too, Andy, because we have Mark Lardie is the president and CEO of Rack Room Shoes, and Mark is a industry veteran, a really strategic leader. When you're with Mark, you'll hear it in this episode. He really thinks through things critically and thoughtfully. And Mark, as you come on Shoe In Show and join us today, you have big news at Rack Room as you're celebrating 100 years, which is, there's only a few footwear companies that can say that. And so welcome to Shoe In Show. And what does it mean to sit at the helm of a company that's been around for 100 years?
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting thing to talk about. And I'll tell you, frankly, we wrestled long and hard about making any kind of mention of that 100-year anniversary, because there's a relentlessness to retail. There is just every day across the country of 520 stores, 6,000 associates that got to get up and go do the same thing they just finished the night before at 9 o'clock. And so the idea that we have to win every day and we have to satisfy our customers every day and deliver every day for 100 years and probably another 100 to come is again, it's odd to mark these kind of milestones. But at the end of the day, we felt that it was important, and we think it makes a statement sort of around our brand and all of the people that have been associated with our brand over the years. That doesn't just include people that have worked for us. All of our partners in all aspects of our business, I think, can take a moment to celebrate the fact that they helped us navigate what was a very changing time when Phil Snyder started this company in 1922. There's no way it looked like it does today. I mean, there was not even imagination around the things we have to do digitally today to stay connected with our customer. But the core of what he tried to do, which was provide fair valued footwear for local customers, really customers in a community that he knew very well, as friends to some extent, people that lived in his neighborhood. Those are some of the same kind of attributes that we've carried through all 100 years and we think makes us relevant today. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. And Andy and I will get to a lot of the kind of prevailing challenges that you're facing right now. But Mark, you're sitting in the seat Phil took 100 years ago. Fast forward 100 years from now, and whoever your successor is sitting in the seat, how different is it going to be? What's the next 100 years look like for Rack Room?
So impossible, as I said. There's no way that
crystal ball.
There's no way Phil could have had any idea what we're faced with today. But again, and I know it sounds really, really simple, but our parent Deichmann has this company statement that whatever we hang on it, whatever details we talk about, we always revert to our basic mission. And that mission statement is that the company exists to serve the people. And we use that in a really broad term. So, of course, our customers, we're here to make sure that customers in local marketplaces have access to great footwear at an affordable price. So that's the easy one. The company also exists to serve our associates, right? We provide jobs for thousands of people around the country. And in many cases, our store managers, our district managers, our headquarter group, we provide careers. People have spent their entire careers working for Rack Room Shoes. So the company exists to serve them. But in a broader sense, we also think about the fact that we exist to serve our vendors, our suppliers, everybody that partners with the company. We choose to play the game really fairly, and we expect them to play fairly back with us. And the most broad standpoint, when Mr. Deichmann talks about that statement, he thinks about it as we also have an opportunity to serve the communities that we do business in, as well as the world in total. And so the company always has a a thoughtfulness around how much we're giving back, again, in the communities we do business, but also to those less fortunate than us. And so this concept that permeates our company, yet the idea we're really here to serve the people, I think that would be a thread that's probably covered all the whole century is. And I think in the future, if the next people that run it, as I hand off to someone else, I think they'll take that same kind of energy and focus and continue to change the brand accordingly, but stay true to its concept.
I'm just sitting here thinking about, the changes over 100 years, not, both in terms of product. Like we always laugh around the tariff code because the tariff code from the 30s, we're still trying to apply current footwear and the changes of the product type, but also just the business operations, Mark. And I'm in my head, I'm just laughing because I'm picturing for the first time someone explaining to someone else how a fax machine works and what it means, right? And then fast forward a few years later, then someone's like, "What is this? It's a computer. What's that? I have no idea." Like, we used to just take a piece of paper and mark down the inventory coming in and just keep files in a file cabinet, and now it's all super organized. So as we look at 100 years, it's fascinating to see a company able to adapt and change and keep thrusting forward with innovations. Maybe you can just share really quickly, like over the past 10 years, what you think's been really impactful for your company and then the broader industry. Like, is it inventory management systems? Is it CRMs? What's the most important kind of innovation that's going to change the industry over the next couple of years, you think?
Yeah, Andy, that's a great lead in. I love the fax machine. I know that some of the younger associates that I work with think that I've been here for all 100 years. When I mention things around what we used to do in the day, so my I guess 40 years ish in the business, last 10 years here at Rack Room, which always seems incredible to me to measure that way. Continues to see great change, and it's hard sometimes when people ask me that question, what's the biggest change? Because again, I know it sounds trite, but the focus still is the same. We always think about sort of turning our organization upside down. It's the pinnacle is not my office. The pinnacle is the kids that touch the customer every single day. And so when we ask our merchants, we ask our marketers, we ask our finance people when they're asking stores questions, to be thoughtful about the fact that they're what makes us successful. And so creating an environment where they can spend the time with the customer, they can satisfy the customer, execute on their needs and demands, I think is really important. For us, what we would think about is the information game, Andy. That's been the biggest change. And you can talk about the tools, and we're always working on modernizing our tools to manage all the information that's available. But for us, what's really changed is back in the day, we had all the information. We knew what they were buying, and we thought we knew why they were buying it. And to a large extent, we told them what to buy, right? We spent millions of dollars marketing particular products at a particular price to entice them to come in and buy those products at those prices. Today, with the information flow that they have at their fingertips in our store, they aren't always looking at our shelf or worried about a code that they can put into their phone to find out. They've got their phone, right? And we had a great offsite summit a few years ago, and we talked about one of the pillars was information in our stores. And what we said is, and this is going to sound sort of foolish, but what we said is we need to make sure that our store associates have at least as much information as our customer has, because our customer can often walk in and if they're good at their information gathering on their phone, they can have more information than we provide our associates, and that's not fair. And so when we think about it, as we think we have this unbelievably well-educated customer that knows so much about not only what's going on in our store, but what's going on all around them in their community. And to the extent that they want to know fashion-wise, they can know what's going on all around the world. And so this idea that we have to be tuned into that and understand that they're going to come in really well-educated, I think that's been the biggest change, Andy, and that continues to change.
It's a balance of power, right, between the two, and trying to navigate that. What I think is also really interesting is it feels like, and you can tell me because you talk to all the folks on the ground, but it feels like we're in a new epoch of talent acquisition and retention. I see a lot of stores talking about giving, tuition assistance in some way, either up front on the back end. We see wages increasing. How do you guys navigate keeping that great talent and finding that great talent in this environment? I mean, I know it's extremely tough, but is some of it, I think, is just from my perspective, purpose is so important to younger workers, not just the paycheck. I mean, that is important, obviously, but it really is around purpose and finding meaningful work in these environments.
Yeah, I think that's again, you nailed the concept. We're all battling for this narrow service talent pool, and so we think we have some advantages. We have a cadre of really long-term serving store associates. I think we're fortunate to sort of be bridging that, but they're graying out, and so we have to do those modern things. You're right, Andy, to make sure that they're the next step, the replacement for those folks, they can find the same kind of passion and dedication to Rack Room as we go forward. So I'd tell you a couple things. We're doing things like everybody else. As we added this year the Dr. Horst Deisman scholarship program. So each year, 4 associates get chosen from an application pool, and we help fund their college education through a maximum of 4 years. And so we're trying to make sure that we do those kind of things, as you suggest, some modernizing things. We're doing all of the things to be competitive from a payroll and benefits standpoint as well. But we've taken probably a slightly different focus where the world is sort of focused on this minimum living wage. I mean, we're certainly concerned about all the associates that work for us, but we're really focused on the people that are thinking about us as a career. And so we've heavied up the higher end of that spectrum. So our store managers, our assistant managers, our future store managers, if you will, our district managers, we're trying to ensure that we can pay them a wage that they could be thoughtful around this as a career, that they could make a life at this, that they could raise a family at this level of wage. And that takes thoughtfulness about how you allocate hours, that takes thoughtfulness about how much you pay everybody else. But our focus really is against that group to make sure that they're, again, fairly thought of from a compensation standpoint. And again, with an eye towards this isn't just a starter job, or this is not just an intermediary job, but if you had the will and desire for it, this could be a forever job for you, and you could live comfortably, and you could raise a family at those kind of wages. So that's how we're trying to think about how we're spending our money from that standpoint. But really, anyway, you said about purpose is what it's all about. And so it's hard for large organizations. You have 520 stores in 37 states, and how you touch them and how you try to ensure consistency. So we try to go for a balance. So we try to make sure that our individual store managers feel like they have some ownership, that they have some entrepreneurship. And so we provide guidelines on how their store should be set up. We talk about things that should be featured, but we also give them some ability to know their marketplace, to know that whatever we've told them to put in the window isn't the right thing for their particular place. And so we give them some flexibility to change that. It gives them an opportunity to have dialogue with their leadership, their regional managers and our VP of store operations, just so they can talk about why they did it. And boy, Andy, when you get the kids talking about why they did it, when they talk about their store as their store, and they talk about the knowledge they have about the customers they shop their store, the pride rings through. And so the more you can get them to feel that they own it, and the less that you force down from the top, this is how they told us to do it, I'm just doing what they told me to do. Right. I think it changed the paradigm pretty quickly.
I love that, Mark. Yeah, it creates that purpose that is also business driven, that helps enhance the overall business operations of Rack Room. Let's survey the retail landscape as we sit here now in the start of summer of 22. And the hits just keep on coming, Mark. Let's talk inflation. Let's talk inventory. Let's even talk about, even prior to the COVID pandemic, brands wanting to chart more of their own destiny and starting to kind of narrow down their distribution channels with their retail partners. You at Rack Room have seemed to have dodged that and have shown the importance of partnership with family footwear retailers that have a great footprint, if you will, and not just Rack Room. We also should talk about off Broadway as well. So I don't know if we can hit these like real quick, but let's start with this kind of retail landscape where brands are wanting to chart their own course, while at the same time so they're limiting their doors in other ways that they don't control, but at the same time have enhanced the relationships they have with folks like you and how important those partnerships are. So how are you navigating all this? And then maybe we can kind of go down the line from that to inflation, to supply chain, to, all the hits that keep coming.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to say an overarching thing first, and I'll get really focused on Rack Room. But the family footwear, the term is coined, or mid-tier, however it's coined, it is an excellent space. The retailers that we compete against in that space do a phenomenal job. We tell all of our vendor partners when they come to sell us, we make our case for Rack Room, but remind them that the space exists and flourishes because the other retailers in the space are doing an equally good job. They're investing in their brand. They're investing in their stores. They're investing in their people. They're focused against their core activities and their core customers. And so we think the whole space has done a really good job, and that's probably what's helped elevate us and helped us gobble up market share. We took a look, Matt, sorry, I'm not going to get too far off track, but we took a look since 2012, there's only two sectors that have grown market share in the footwear business in the United States. That's the e-com business and the family footwear channel. And there's a reason for that. And so we're proud to be part of that, and we're working hard to do our part. With regards to brands verticalizing, it's just the nature of things, right? So it just happens. The digital connection allows them to be stickier and closer to customers around the country, and so customers that want to buy directly from any of our brands now have access to be able to do that. Where the family footwear channel and Rack Room in particular, we think we can capitalize on that as they have a particular voice. Each one of those brands is in much the same way we have to be focused on how we target customer. They have to be focused on how they target customer. And so in many ways, any of those brands, their focus and target is passionate and super interested in their particular brand, and they'll gobble up a lot of market share for that particular user. But in the space we work in, these household incomes under 100,000, in many cases under 75,000, there's an immediacy often to the purchase. And so we see a much lower penetration in e-commerce business. Mom gets paid on Friday, she takes the kids to replace the shoes, or more likely some other trigger event like a tax rebate comes in. And so now she has a flush household income again, and she wants to go and purchase the shoes. Well, mostly those are shoes that need to be purchased now. They're worn out, can't wait. And the voice of our brand, which we protect really carefully, is a relatable voice, right? And so we think that we work hard to make sure that she understands that when we speak, we understand her, that we don't have so many aspirational targets, that we don't try to talk to her in a more technical way. And so we think in many aspects, we're complementary to what those great brands are doing. So if you're at the pinnacle and you're talking about this real pinnacle, either fashion or technical message, and you're targeting your core customer, there's a drafting on that, right? Below that, other customers, while they may not be ready for that message, they understand the values of your brand, and then they translate that into an understandable voice like Rack Room, and we think that's where we connect. So we think we play a great role in that verticalization. We don't think brands will ever be able to tell a broad enough message to capture the real core focus target, as well as sort of all the takedown to that. And so again, we think we play a really important role in the progress that retail is having today.
Yeah, and so that's a great response to that, Mark, because even in the surveying that we've done of footwear consumers, we do every single year, convenience is always one of the top reasons why shoe shoppers prefer brick and mortar. And all the e-commerce activity lends itself to this thought maybe that, convenient to have it dropped off on your front porch. But to your point, when you need that shoe now, and there's a Rack Room within 5 miles of every house and kind of these family and suburban areas in particular, then you go and get it. You try it on. You're allowed to take them home or exchange them out if need be. And so there's a convenience factor that I think we often overlook in the brick and mortar space. And even our internal numbers right now are showing that brick and mortar is back, baby. It's coming back. It's stronger than ever. It's growing faster, even in spite of some of the headwinds we see. Growing faster in e-commerce right now because of some of the challenges we've seen with COVID. And so I think that brick and mortar is kind of roaring back in a lot of ways. And my suspicion is that you guys are bullish on it as well, because it's a core part of the strength that you bring to our industry.
Yeah, you bet. And again, unfortunately, through these processes, you shake out a lot of unstable or unfocused retailers. And so also what happens, Matt, is what's left, the brick and mortar retailers that are left have all upped their game, right? So their stores are more targeted and more focused. And to some extent, these lower inventory levels in some of the channels probably have helped to tell a cleaner message. So not to poke at anybody, but the department store is a much easier place to shop today. What they have in their store now is much more focused, and each of those brands can resonate when I shop each one of these department stores. Now, what they said now resonates in their store, and so I think the people that are left are delivering a better in-store brick and mortar experience, and I think that's luring the customer back.
So let's go quickly through these kind of issues that we talked about and what your expectations are over the next few months and years. Inflation, kind of how are you viewing inflation and inflationary pressures our consumer is feeling across the board in every single product category that they purchase?
Yeah, we're watching closely. I would say we're cautiously optimistic. Our history would tell us that we should have been impacted more heavily than we've been impacted so far. More historically, when gas prices take a sharp rise as they did, our families get really impacted fast. That takes a big chunk out of mom's discretionary budget. Hasn't happened so far, so we're watching that really closely. We think that what all the numbers tell us about this $2 trillion of extra household money that's laying around, that starts to get evaporated. And I think we're seeing that already with the credit numbers going up. And so we fully expect the belts to be tightened a little bit by the time we get to fall, as she sort of starts to chew into her surplus income over the stimulus money over the last couple of years. And so, we're forecasting a little tighter run in the second half of the year. And mostly we just have to watch. We certainly don't believe any of the early statements around inflation being transitory. We never believed that. We thought those prices were sort of baked in forever. For us, it's really, as you can imagine, with our household budgets, it's around the grocery store and the gas station, and to the extent that she can manage those couple of increased expenses, we get a benefit in another place, Matt, that doesn't get spoken of very often, but quite often in these kind of inflationary times, we tend to prosper, and the reason is, when it doesn't seem like you can afford the next house, when it doesn't seem like a car is in the offing in the short term, when it doesn't seem like a large appliance purchase is a new TV, a new washer and dryer, there isn't something the family's saving for because it seems a little too far away. You still need feel-good moments in the family, and oftentimes footwear and apparel can be a relatively affordable feel-good moment. So not in the Great Recession, but all other times when we get a little bit of these inflationary pressures, quite often our sector and our stores can benefit from it. So we think there's a little bit of that going on too.
You have 100 years of data to help you navigate through that, right? So the last thing I have on my end, I'll turn it back over to Andy in just a second, is supply chain, right? We saw demand dry up in 2020, spring 2020, inventory spiked. Then demand spiked with that $2 trillion that was lying around that you spoke of. Now we're in this kind of post-pandemic era where inventories are starting to be replenished, but we're seeing a softening demand clearly based on inflation and other pressures. How are you thinking about supply chain, the movement of goods globally as it relates to the next 6 to 12 months?
Thinking about it more than we've ever thought about, that's for certain. I would overarchingly say that. The footwear industry really did a remarkable job. I mean, there's a bunch of people out there currently beating up themselves if you're in the supply chain for the vendor community, or CFOs that are beating up their supply chain for the added costs, et cetera. But, to say out loud what you just said, to think that we screeched everything to a halt. We asked everybody, don't ship us anything for a while. And then we said, now ship us the stuff that we want, but don't ship us too much of that stuff. And to that, last year opening the spigots and saying, ship us everything you can. The fact that they've reacted as well as they've reacted is pretty remarkable. So we give a lot of kudos to the industry in their ability to take the right actions and do the right thing. So great job on that front. In terms of the cost, I mean, they're just there. I know. I keep seeing people thinking about, well, in 23 it's going to correct itself. We're not so sure. We think a fair amount of that. The large shipping companies have done a phenomenal job of controlling prices. They're quick to retire ships and slow to bring ships back online. They watch their demand. They're forecasting, much like we're all trying to forecast. And so They like these new price per container prices and what it does to their economics, and so we're not anticipating things going back to the easy days anytime soon. We think that kinks in the supply chain start to straighten out. Maybe sometime in 23. We'll have to all, as you often do, keep your eyes on China and see how their zero tolerance policy continues to play out. But we think generally everybody's adjusting to that pretty well, and so we'd say predictability will increase, and we think slowly in the next 15, 18 months that people will start to carve down their timelines again in terms of the ordering process, because they become more confident in the reliability of the timelines and the shipping. We think those kind of things happen. We think logistics prices, we're forecasting logistics prices to stay pretty high over the next 3 years. We don't see a big retraction in that. So we're building our model around the idea that we're going to continue to pay more, but our expectation is for coming back to some more reliability. Our again, as I said in the opening, our industry is just too good in the logistics world. So I think once they've got their footing back, their confidence will rise and they'll start to chop those timelines back down a little bit. But again, we're not expecting big decreases in logistics cost.
Great. Back to school. Are you guys getting ready right now for back to school season already?
Yeah, heavy base in the South, Andy, as you know, and so we get these early back to schools. I can't even think about. I grew up in California, and we never thought about going back to school until after Labor Day. We've got kids across the South that start back to school at the end of July, and so we've done all of our planning. We just did our final go to market for back to school actually last week, and so we think we're as prepared as we possibly can be, and. Like everybody, we're taking everything we can take in early. We're taking in early just to make sure that we get no snafus at the end. There'll be a few stragglers, we're sure. Our logistics team is keyed up to do some special handling on those things, but we're pretty geeked up and ready to go.
Yeah, my kid's not even out of school, and I'm already ready for back to school season. So, but I just pointed out because I think some people who may not understand retail don't appreciate the extended timeline and how much planning has to go into these seasons and the work behind the scenes in terms of the promotions and setting up the stores and getting the product in. And it's just, are you having to, are tools helping you narrow that so you can get quicker, more agile to make decisions faster? Or are you having to extend that planning process because of all the chaos around supply chains and everything?
Yeah, we've run the same process for a number of years. And so because of how we're located geographically and most of our friends are in the same sort of boat, we'll have stores that will peak in the 17th, 18th of July, and we'll have stores that will peak just before Labor Day. And so we run waves, Andy, with regards to that. We heavy up our local digital advertising around those waves to sort of help, remind customers that we're there for them at this back to school time. We set the store and then drive to that. With regards to the uncertainty around deliveries, we have tried to deliver product early, and we've opened the door for our vendors to ship things as early as they can ship. We're super fortunate to be a privately held company. We don't have to answer a lot of questions about our inventory levels. We have what we would say a benevolent owner that is understanding. He spent his whole life in the business, so he understands when you have to do certain things to invest. And so we have a pretty free hand to deliver product when we need to deliver product to ensure that we're ready for our peak sales season. So yeah, we've taken some of those steps. Our partners, our vendor partners have taken some of those steps to try to deliver things early. We're all going to get caught with some things, Andy, though. No one's going to be perfect, I think, for this back to school season. But it does feel in America, at least, I'm not sure around the globe we have that same sense, but in America, it feels like we've decided that we're going to live with this pandemic or this COVID situation. And so I think for the first time since 2019, we think we'll have a real back to school where parents aren't cautious, parents aren't waiting for the next foot to fall. I think they're just going to be confident that their kids are going to go back to school and they're going to be in school for the whole school year. And so we think that changes the dynamic, and so we're pretty excited about what that will bring for the back to school purchasing season.
That's awesome. And last question, and this is not about sales or anything else. I'm just wondering, during COVID, I've noticed that holiday sales start in October now. At the same time I'm shopping for holiday candy, I'm shopping for presents, and I'm confused by it. I'm just wondering, as you just alluded to, like in America, we're kind of dealing with it. maybe more so than other people. Are we going to go back to a normal holiday schedule where promotions start in November instead of or in early October or whatever? I'm just confused about when holiday starts at this point.
We think so, Andy. What we think is that every day that life seems a little more normal, people will start to act a little more normally. And so we think that, as retailers, we had to encourage people probably to go back out and shop again. And so some of that was built around, I'm not going to do that with price because I don't need to do that with price today. And so we did it around talking about holidays before probably we needed to talk about holidays. And again, I think as we see a more normalized customer behavior, we're shopping because this is the time we normally shop. We're shopping because it's time to replace shoes. We're shopping because it's seasonal. We do think those timelines will start to creep back down, and people will be able to talk about Christmas at Christmas time. They'll be able to talk about Black Friday at Black Friday time rather than anything else. Transition still will be interesting. We'll all have to sort of see how we eke our way through late September and October. But again, I think as retailers relax a little bit and realize that customers are going to fall back into their more normal shopping patterns, we think we'll see that happen. We have continued to see, even this spring with sort of the Easter time frame, we have continued to see that peaks are higher than ever. And so we do believe for us, how our business peaks, we do think we'll see a really sharp back to school, and we think we'll see a really strong, sharp Christmas. And we have to be probably a little more satisfied that the in-between will be more flattish.
Yeah, that's a great answer, because I think you're right. I think it was kind of socializing people to it's okay to go out and shop.
That's right.
It's okay.
Well, remember last year, just to be fair, last year wasn't very normal either. Everyone was so worried about logistics constraints. No one wanted to get a Christmas present in February. And so I think, a lot of retailers and frankly, the people that provide the supply, UPS and FedEx, were spending a lot of time and effort and energy telling customers, buy early, shop early and buy early to make sure you have it. So
yeah, great points on that. Mark, congratulations on 100 years and all the work that's put in by your team, but also, as you clearly said, all the associates across the country that meet customer needs in their communities every single day. 100 years is no easy feat, moving from fax machines to computers to phones and keeping up along the way with all the different product changes and shifts, and still being focused on zeroing in on that customer every single day. So congratulations.
Yeah,
thank you, Eddie. It takes a team to get that done.
Folks, this is Shoe and Show. We cover the ins and outs of the footwear industry. You just heard another fantastic episode with one of the leaders of our industry. You can go to shoeandshow.com and see all our different episodes. There's well over 300 now. We encourage you to go back and just take a listen to past episodes. There's still, as much as the change is happening in this world, there's still great nuggets around culture and leadership that you can find in those conversations. If you have topics you like to discuss or guests that you think we should have on, this whole show was built around sharing conversations and ideas across the industry to strengthen the industry, and we're here to serve. And as always, if FDRA can serve you and your company, please let us know. Just drop us a line at info@fdra.org. On behalf of Matt and our team, remember to wear that sunscreen. And until next time, Shoe In is out.
Shoe In has been brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. For information about FDRA, visit fdra.org.